This had better be important.
Yes, sir. The American agent has infiltrated the X-Lab facility.
Welcome back to the Funker 530 Combat Footage Review. My name's Ronnie. I'm going to be your host once again. We have a little bit different of a show tonight, but you know how we normally start things. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know you guys are here. Hit the like button. Do all that normal stuff I ask you for. We're going to start things off a little bit differently tonight, though. I do have a special guest that not only have you guys been asking me for quite a while. He and I have been talking about it for probably longer, to be honest with you. We're going to have Matt Tardio from the Speak the Truth show joining us tonight. We're going to be covering something a little bit differently. I'm going to set you up for that first with a little bit of a video, and that video is going to be coming up for you right now. This is a video of Adam Ennis. He goes by the name Braveheart.
Hi Matt, it's Braveheart here. First of all, thank you so much for having my back. It means the world. I just wanted to highlight a few points. First of all, I'm so proud to be part of this war effort. I'm proud of the Ukrainian people and how strong and resilient they are. Now, whether that's through civilians or the military or even the international fighters that we've found over here throughout this war, they're doing a hell of a job. We're still standing. The world gave us 1 week and we're still here almost 4 years later. Now, in terms of corruption, yes, it exists here, like it does in the UK and Europe and America and everywhere else, and there are a few bad eggs. But I don't want this image to be created on the full military, because it's not like that. And I have full faith in the Ukrainian anti-corruption bureaus that they will take care of these incidents as they see fit. But thank you once again to you and everyone else from the support. It means the world. Braveheart. Also, I'd like to add in, I'm sorry about my appearance. I'm a bit rough and rugged. I've not slept much in the past 24 hours. It's been quite a stressful period.
All right. So, like I mentioned, we have Mr. Matt Tardio. Buddy, what's going on? It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us here on the Combat Footage Review. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. I kind of wish I was back over here for a different reason, like some of the stuff that we were talking about earlier last year, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, we were talking about getting you on and talking about some of our shared experiences that we have that probably not a lot of people know about, but I want to talk about Adam a little bit, because this is something we connected on, or you connected with me on this morning over on X, and I found it to be a very, very interesting story about volunteers, some of the challenges that they work through. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to butcher this story, right? So if you wouldn't mind giving us an understanding, just at a bare level, what exactly is going on with Adam, I'd appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah, of course. So a little over about 24 hours ago, he was going across from Ukraine and into Poland, and he got picked up by the Ukrainian military police. They picked him up because he was allegedly AWOL from his service. He originally joined the Ukrainian military in March of 2023, and he fought in some of the toughest frickin' battles under contract. He helped to liberate Kiev. He was all the way over in Bakhmut, Irpin, frickin', I mean, like you name it, this guy's pretty much been there, right? He was even wounded in July of 23. So he joins in March of 22, July 23, he gets wounded, and then in December of 23, he ends up getting out of the Ukrainian military. His contract's done, he's complete, and he's good to go. January of 24, he actually starts contracting, and they're moving vehicles in and out of Ukraine, going to donate vehicles to the people up over on the front line to make sure that they have everything that they need. And he's been doing that ever since, along with medical equipment, medical supplies, you know, I mean, just tons of stuff this man has actually done for Ukraine. And then out of the blue, yesterday, he ends up getting picked up. Well, interesting enough, I ended up getting my hands on those paperwork for him being AWOL, and allegedly this ends up getting signed. You know, it in my opinion, it's probably backdated, but signed all the way back, I think it was December 16th of 2023 allegedly is when they said he was AWOL. The problem is I've looked at his passport book, and he's got so many freaking passport stamps across that thing. It's not even funny. I mean, it's one of those things that just kind of makes you wonder. Now, I've talked to 4 different guys from his unit. Now, as we speak, he is, by the way, on his way being transferred out east. Right. I've talked to 4 different guys from the unit that he was in, the 117th Territorial Defense Force. And those 4 different guys also happen to be on that particular sheet, right? There's a whole buttload of these dudes that they threw on there. And wouldn't you know it, they're all foreigners. None of the guys are Ukrainians. They're all foreigners. So none of them are on there.
Interesting.
Now, some of these guys are still currently serving. One of the guys actually just got cleared to go into a unit. And that unit that he went into last week, he had to get cleared by the SBU in order to get in there. So last week, as the SBU is clearing this guy, even though his name's on the sheet of paper, I mean, if he was entered into the system last week, he should have popped hot, right?
Sure.
Like the SBU should have grabbed him and said, "Hey, your security clearance, like, you know, we can't do this. By the way, you're AWOL from this unit. Like, you need to figure this crap out, or take him and send him out like they're doing without him." Right? Didn't happen. So now it makes you wonder, why all of a sudden did this guy get thrown into the freaking mix, and why is he on his way back east?
So I kind of want to summarize really for my own benefit here, if you don't mind, because there's some timelines, and unless you've been following, at least a portion of this the way you have for, I would say maybe the last only 24 hours or so, I think I need to be, I need to focus a little bit on the timeline. So 2022, he joins, he's a UK citizen, joins as a volunteer the Ukrainian military contract.
Correct.
So at that point, he is part of the Ukrainian military, serves with distinction through 2024. Some pretty heavy fights. You talked about Bakhmut
through
there.
December of 23. So through December of 23.
Okay. So through December of 2023. And again, you talked about Bakhmut, you talked about the fighting in and around Kyiv, and you just talked about the fighting in the east in Donetsk with this most recent Russian offensive action that we've been seeing taking place. Then gets out and stands up this, if I understand the nonprofit effort correctly, it's something like Jeeps for Ukraine's, 4x4s, things like that, bringing vehicles across the border from Poland into Ukraine. And so he has made this trek multiple times now, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
On this latest trip, within the last 24 hours, Ukrainian MPs picked him up saying that he was AWOL from his unit when he has discharge paperwork, he has documentation as being wounded in combat. It's been validated with these other points of contact that you have that he 100% discharged from the Ukrainian military. Is that accurate?
Right.
How?
Yeah, and even
how
more
does that
so.
happen?
Even more so. Yeah. Solid question, right? So even more so, looking through a signal chat, it would appear that this particular unit commander might have had it out with some of those guys that were in that particular unit. And it's even more troubling when we start looking at like current figures that just got put out. I want to say it was like last week, where they're saying over 250,000 Ukrainians have gone to AWOL or deserted,
quote unquote.
So,
well, so based on this example, though, you have to kind of put quotes around that number, right? So if there are 250,000 that have quote deserted, and you have situations, at least this is just one example, but if there's one, there's probably more. Well, 4 you mentioned, right? So there are multiple on that list. Is that what you were saying there?
Oh, no, this is a very long list. This is a very long list. And a lot of these guys are no longer in Ukraine, but some of them still are.
So something that we've talked about in the past, and this was touched on during Adam's video, and I want to say that was sent to you directly, was it not? Hey, Matt, he's talking to you, right? So you have contact with him. This isn't something that you're just pulling, from the news somewhere. This is a conversation that you are having with this UK citizen that's currently going through this.
Correct.
But he mentioned something in there that I have talked about before, and those are the differences between something like government or systemic corruption and kind of localized corruption.
That's right.
I see 2 real possibilities here, just in my brain. One, I see a massive paperwork screw up that ultimately led to where we are today. And on the other hand, I see the potential that this is being used, being in the military, there's pay that comes along with that, right? Talk to me
Bingo.
about some of the different possibilities that through your research that you may or even may not have come across documentation that might support, right? Is this just a paperwork error or something that he needs to get solved, or is he being sent back to fight?
Yeah, that's a good question. Or is he being sent back to get charged with something more serious, right? Which is why I am more than okay with sharing this and talking about it, because last thing the dude needs to get, charged with is desertion during a time of war, right? So
Right.
that would suck.
Do we know what the Ukrainian punishment is for desertion? Is
I
it
don't,
capital?
but I have
Somebody in
seen
the
some
chat, let
capital
us know.
punishment
Let us
taking
know.
place.
Let us know what that is in the chat if you know. I think that's
Yeah, let's be
relevant.
honest. I mean, if you've been following it, you've seen that take place, right?
Sure.
Whether or not that's legal for the guys that are under contract, from foreign countries, I have no idea. That's a totally different thing. But yeah, they were having issues back then, and this is what I got from speaking with some of the guys. They were having issues back then with getting paid. As a matter of fact, even after he got injured, he wasn't even paid for his injury pay. He's still due out medals, all sorts of stuff. And even then, he doesn't make a stink out of it. He never has. He's just continued on with the fight. Issue when I ended up bringing it up with the commander, and if this guy is at fault for this and he ends up doing it, you better believe that I'm going to end up diming this dude out for the crooked stuff that I just read in the chat today that he was doing back then. And I'm going to go ahead and hold my tongue on that to make sure that this thing gets handled correctly and not do my not just come out on an all-out slander campaign.
You're talking about
this would have been their commander at the time. Yep, this would have been their commander at the time.
So
I'm going to hold my tongue on that, gentleman. But it is possible because you were having pay issues and things like that back then. Well, if these guys happen to stay on the books and the pay's still getting sent their way, but they're no longer there because they're all foreigners.
I see the inference. Okay, so the inference there that you are not saying that I will just try and summarize is that they left some of these foreigners on the books because they are foreigners. It's presumed that they're just going to go back to their homes, and it still reads as though they're on the books, so they can claim to pay for it. That's the inference, but it's not something that is known. It's
it's a possibility that I highly think needs looked into at this point. Yeah.
Okay. But I think so where is he right now? What is he doing at this very moment?
Yep. So he got treated like a deserter. Okay. Yeah. I mean, he's arrested / detained, however you want it, whatever way you want to spin it, thrown in with a couple of other guys and being ushered back out east. So I'm not going to obviously, give away exact locations of where he's at and, where he's been, but he's been under transport for the last 24 hours.
Under transport. So it's some form of a lockdown, maybe, something along those lines.
No, I mean, he's in a confined space everywhere he goes. Correct.
So this dude spent 2 years fighting for Ukraine, then spent the last year, running vehicles across the border, and now is under lockdown, being shipped back to presumably wherever the 117th TDF headquarters is in Donetsk. I think there's still probably a possibility they're sending him back there, given how antiquated some of Ukraine's practices still are, needing a person to be there, right? Maybe they're just sending him back there to take a look at his paperwork. You know what I mean?
Let's be honest. They have offices like that in Lviv, right? So if he's crossing over the Polish border, there's like 2 main points, and getting brought back over into Lviv. I mean, stuff could have been taken care of back there.
Is everything centralized in that way, though? That's kind of what I'm asking. I don't know what I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, it's centralized it better be, because it's centralized to the point where they can put him in a system as AWOL, and I'd hate to think that they have to throw a guy in a van and take him on a 36-hour ride just to get him to go sign some paperwork.
You're not wrong, because I think
they have computers. I've been in those offices.
I think they
have all of those things.
That's been the pushback that I've seen so far from a lot of folks, even currently serving, volunteers, is, they're only sending him back there to, check his paperwork and stuff. The inference being that, there's no general centralization of this. It doesn't feel as though, based on what you're sharing, and again, I'm hearing this as a tertiary, third level. You're getting this directly from the guy. It doesn't feel as though it's hey, come back in and let's have a conversation about this. It feels to me as though he's being sent back to fight, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that. It could be for punishment. It could be for a million different things, right?
Sure.
The MPs, like, from talking with him and some others that are familiar with this, like the MPs that even took him in were not happy with what they're being told to do. Like, they know it's jacked up.
The
They
MPs
know it's
weren't
messed
happy.
up.
What does that mean?
Yeah, the MPs, I mean, obviously they're going to follow orders and do their jobs, but it's not like the MPs, I don't think personally agreed with it. You know what I mean? It's not like they're beating them and treating them like crap as they're taking them back. They're treating them with like the respect that you would expect somebody that's done the different things that this man has done would receive. But at the same time, I mean, they're still taking them back. And so they're obviously giving him some leniency and stuff like that. I'm talking to the phone on it. You know, I'm talking with the guy, but it's pretty screwed up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to read through the chat here. I've seen a ton of questions flying across. We're with Matt Tardio from Speak the Truth podcast. Not that I need to tell most of you guys that. And we're talking about Adam Ennis. Adam is a UK citizen and volunteer with the Ukrainian military, served from 2022 to 2024. December of 2023, and then spent the last year running Jeeps. Well, I shouldn't say Jeeps, but 4x4s, because I've seen, I did do a peruse through their stuff. It's really vehicles for use, everything moving troops to and from the line to probably ambulances, all sorts of stuff. He was picked up.
Some of them get upfitted, you know?
Yeah. He was picked up 24 hours ago for being AWOL at the border with Poland after having traversed that border numerous times. And is now being shipped back to the East. Matt and I just really having a conversation over our thoughts on, you know, the situation in its entirety. Matt has contact with him directly, right, with Adam. And how are his spirits right now? I mean, we saw the video at the beginning, but not everybody was here for that.
I mean, he hasn't really slept very much, you know. Spirit-wise, he's a little bit ticked off, like as most people would be. It's frustrating as hell. But it's also, I think it's like slowly starting to sink in. You know, when I told them about contacting the embassy, you know, get a hold of the UK embassy first. Like, that's the first place I would go when you're being, you know, arrested. Obviously, talk to the embassy in that, your embassy in that country. The embassy got back with him today and basically said that this is an issue between you and the Ukrainian military, and that, you know, they're going to keep talking about it, but nothing they can do.
Really?
And my thought process on that is that's complete and total bull.
That's horseshit.
No.
There is absolutely
you know how much
plenty
political pressure you should be throwing on this?
Not.
It's not even funny.
No. So that actually frustrated me a little bit. There's a lot that could be done,
right,
across leveled, given how closely the embassies are tied in with the things that are happening on the ground. And I find that to be, I have a question for you. In your opinion, and this might take us at exactly where I was going with that. What do you think that we need from our collective communities to help Adam out right now? What would be your recommendation?
Awareness. Starting off with awareness, because if that's the stance the UK is going to take and they're not going to put political pressure on him, yeah, I am, you know, it is a possibility. Maybe they'd bring him back there and he ends up getting charged with something a little bit more serious. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's garbage for a man that's done so much for that country. It's garbage just to the fact that he's being detained and taken. Let's say it was a paperwork error. This is 2025.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't Ukraine back when I was first over there in 2015. You know, this is a different freaking Ukraine today. There's a lot more stuff, right? They have technology. They have capabilities. If it is simple signing of paperwork, why didn't they take care of that in Lviv? Why are they sending him all the way out there? This is a citizen that is in that country that's actually doing favors for them that they just detained. God only knows what happened with his flights. I know some other things about his family that I'm going to keep, but it's a problem for a lot of people that they're doing this just on surface level.
What information do we have about his method of detention? You know, did they roll him up? Did they tell him, you know, hop in? You know, was it cordial?
No, they came over and they were cordial with him, man. They were cordial with him. Like I said, he told the MPs who he was and that it was complete crap. And I mean, there's articles of this guy online, you know, being like out of the UK, of being a hero of Ukraine, you know, dubbed the hero of Ukraine, you know, Braveheart, massive freaking Scotsman. This dude's like a monster of a man. So I don't even think the MPs wanted to tangle with him anyways. Why? I mean, like I said, it's literally them just following orders and kind of like apologizing along the way. And honestly, I think they're lucky he didn't like go off and just beat the crap out of him. But he does have to cross the border at some point. So
yeah, well, you can tell in his. So here's my thing: you can tell in his video to you that he was still being very tactful. He still wants everybody to know that he believes in the mission that he went to Ukraine to support. it didn't. It sounded as though he was acknowledging that there could be some corruption at stake, or excuse me, not at stake, but at work here. I think that localized that difference between systemic, governmental, public sector corruption and that very low level, localized, local commanders doing things that they probably shouldn't. Which, I mean, the United States military has an issue with, right? We're seeing stuff like
Everybody
that.
does.
We're seeing stuff like that all across the globe. So for somebody to look
We
at
had
that and use that as exemplary of some kind of "I told you so" is absolutely ignorant and moronic. But
Right.
you can
We had a
see him-
politician in D.C. get a gold bar pulled out of his pocket
Oh,
like
for
the
sure.
other year. Like, come on, you know?
Yeah, it's everywhere. I've said before that corruption is a ladder, or excuse me, a scale, not a 1 or a 0. It's a perception, right? It's how corrupt are you, and practices in some countries that we look at and very much so believe that's corrupt. To them is business, right? So corruption is a perception. That's why organizations like the Transparency Index, transparency.org, I want to say it is. They measure it based on perceptions of public sector corruption, not necessarily a 1 or a 0. So, but where I was going with that is it's obvious that he's inferring that, yeah, that could be a problem here, but I want everybody to understand that I still very much believe in what I'm doing. So this is not Matt and myself really trying to lean in on anybody. It's if everything is the way it looks here, then Ukraine writ large is doing this guy an absolute wrong, frankly.
Well, what it looks like to me is somebody tried to do a CYA, and he's eating the freaking price for it right now,
which is horseshit.
And that's the problem. Like, yeah. And those things exist in the United States. They exist over inside of Ukraine. The fact that it wasn't recognized as such, and even if it was a CYA or a paperwork issue, that's something that should have been corrected over in Lviv. There's no need to take him. Lviv, you got what? Probably like an hour drive from Midiaka, right? Something like that. There's no reason to take him any further than that if it is a simple paperwork issue.
And you would think with something, I mean, I wouldn't say that there's a perception that negotiations are still going on, and I would disagree with that entirely, especially given that there's not going to be a Putin-Zelensky meeting. But you would think that with so many people that are ready for something like that to happen, that Ukraine would be a little bit faster to figure something like this out, right? Because anytime in war, I've talked about this a lot, you always have to keep one eye on the information space, right? I am an information operator. That is my background. I did information operations for years. And it's always going to be something that I lean back on. So I'm always going to key in on the things that are going to drive perceptions, especially in the dissemination mediums that we have today, like social media. Something small can be used as a confirmation bias for very, very large,
Absolutely,
very large and impactful topics. And when you talk about this paperwork error, which could, again, very, very well be somebody trying to reallocate funds or something else that's weird going on. When you look at that it then becomes exemplary of a larger issue that it isn't necessarily representative of. So I key in on stuff like that quite a bit when I see things like this.
Yeah, and it's really careful. Like you got to kind of, I don't want to say dance around it carefully, but you got to make sure that you let people know exactly what the facts are versus, what an opinion or what it could be, what it might be, and just being perfectly clear about that. It's probably one of the biggest issues in mainstream media where guys like you and me are able to stay employed because people don't do that anymore. It's sad.
Yeah, so even the chat, this would be a great psyop for Putin. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about here. And I saw a comment earlier. Why did he go AWOL? Well, that's the thing is he didn't, folks.
He didn't go AWOL.
So there is documented evidence that he is not AWOL, that he's been discharged and was still picked up by MPs. Even the MPs were like, "I have orders, man. I'm sorry." It's what it sounded like it went. It is what it is.
To the point where the guy's like, "You need to see my wounds,"
Yeah, Jesus. There's a couple things that I did want to share here as well. So he was wounded. We do have a screenshot here of, I want to say just probably documentation. Is that what we're about to look at here? This is the contract soldier Adam Wilson Ennis. So last, comma, first, middle. military unit X, armed forces. There's the medical examination was conducted, surgical profile of the military unit. Mine explosive injury on 7/18/2023.
Right.
So we know a ton
Gunshot
about this
shrapnel
guy.
in the
And
face.
again, he's not a random. You know, he's got a public profile. He's got this not-for-profit. What was it? Jeeps for Ukraine, something like that. I've got a little bit more
man.
that I'll show you guys.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even the I hate to call them propaganda videos. I don't know how to say it, like a lot of the war production videos and things like that that are out there floating around the internet. I mean, this guy's been in several of them. He was known for running around wearing a kilt, like in battle. Is what most people know him from doing.
There's an old image of dudes with bagpipes and kilts from like World War II that I always go back to, and I always tell myself I should have been a bard. You know, because
dude, that.
There's another one from what was it, Syria? I don't know. It's a guy on a street corner and he's got an acoustic guitar and I don't remember if it's Syria or maybe it's even Yemen. But he's playing, and the documentation for the photo says that quite literally he was playing a song to gas up his buddies, which is literally what a bard does.
Nice.
And it was so good. Anyway, I wanted to show you guys this statement, which this is the third tweet in your thread here, Matt, and it appears to be very specific to his AWOL statement. Is I guess what this is. Sentence handed down to a mercenary from the United Kingdom for participation in the armed conflict to the side of Ukraine. I'll give you guys this here.
Yeah, this is his arrest warrant issued by Russia.
Oh, this is his arrest warrant.
That's what that is.
So this is toilet paper then, is what?
Yeah, this is. The Kremlin hates this guy.
This is not this does not matter other than for the memes. Then, to be honest with you,
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's a legit. I mean, the guy literally got tried in Russian court, and there's a warrant for his arrest. You know, they want to kill him. So
I feel like that's more. There's like kudos to that, though. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. When I'm saying like old boy is well documented for the work that he's done, he's even well documented in Russia. You know.
There's a couple guys that I know that made it to this list, actually. Or in Track-a-Merc, that one. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like a badge of honor for these guys when they end up getting it. Like, oh yay, look at that. Russia wants to kill me. Big surprise. Keep trying.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck, everybody. You talked about being in Ukraine, back in 2015. I've had a couple of folks here on our show, mostly on a in-person podcast, and I don't think a lot of people truly understand just how long the United States has been an enabler for Ukraine. It goes back pretty far. So when it comes to why are we allied with whoever, under 90% of circumstances from a hegemony perspective, we will have had troops there for quite some time, and Ukraine is absolutely no different, right? I mean, the mission to enable Ukraine has existed for well over a decade now. This is not new to Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
No, it's not. And like I look at how far the Ukrainian military's come from like back then to where they are like present day. If you go watch some of the original like combat footage from back in like 2014 and 2015, you've got like just looks like a hodgepodge of dudes that are thrown together. Dude, when I was over there, I remember their rocket brigades were kind of like their special forces troops. Like they held that like elite status that nobody could touch. It was like the rocket brigades, like this old school Soviet mentality, man. And they were so low tech. You had Russia that was, I mean, grenades and tripwires were huge back then. And they would be setting up, grenades with a tripwire that comes off of it, and they'd have fish hooks that end up coming through. So they'd run fishing line, a really thin line off of them with like fishing hooks. Guys on patrol would walk through and they'd get a freaking fishing hook in the leg, pull the grenade out. And that's how it went. So their way of countering that back then, as low tech as it is, was literally point man on patrol holding a stick, little twig in between his fingers, like looking down at that sucker and then just walking on point. If the stick started to go back, they were like, cool, found a tripwire. I mean, that's where they came from, just to where they're at present day now. It's nuts.
Well, that goes right back to, you know, what we're talking about here with Adam, right? Is the amount of effort that the UK and their troops have put into training and equipping Ukrainians, and it goes back to the UK embassy saying that they don't have any political capital that they can spend on what's happening to him.
That's exactly when you spend it. You spend your political capital now.
Right. And it blows my mind that they would have the gall to say that, to be honest with you. And I think that if I had to make a recommendation, that would be the thing, is let's hold the UK embassy accountable to this as well. Of course, if Ukraine is screwing the pooch on this, they need to be held accountable. I've said that 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 times over. Accountability is what matters. It's not about, no, don't be mean because they're at war. No, you still have to treat your people the right way. So when it comes to holding Ukraine accountable, if somebody down at the 117th level has done something they shouldn't have, they need to be held accountable for that. The UK needs to be held accountable because they have the political capital to reach in and say, hey, no, he's provided all of his discharge documentation. There is absolutely no reason for you guys to be detaining our citizen, because as far as I'm concerned, this is a foreign detention of a UK citizen at this point.
That's the one.
Right.
That's the one. I don't care if it's an MP that's doing it or a regular police officer that's doing it out on the street. It is a foreign detention, period.
And that I did want to make sure that was made clear. It's not that, former Ukrainian volunteer soldier detained. This is effectively the detention of a UK citizen by a foreign government. I don't care if it is Ukraine. I don't care if it is South Africa. It's a foreign detention.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. Like their consul got struck. Like 2 days ago?
Yeah.
Right. Ended up having like 2 large missiles like slammed down outside of it, and ended up blasting the crap out of it. Heard that some of it was closed down. They were working on some things, and so business was not running as quick. So maybe that's an excuse, but that's not what he got told.
No.
As far as I know.
No, they can still cross level. They're still going to have an ambassador that is literally there for these things, right?
That's what I'm saying, man. It takes one phone call to say, like, I have literally seen this happen in that country. I've seen a phone call that popped an entire unit's head out of its butt. It happens. Yeah.
I want to take a pause here and thank some folks for the support to the show tonight. We've got Matt Tardio here from Speak the Truth. The Real Elena, thank you very much for that. Matt and Ronnie, 2 of our favorites, Vic Whiplash and I, are so grateful for people like you who are committed to pursuing and sharing truth in a world where false narrative is treated as fact. Also love the idea of Ronnie as a bard. Dude, I'm into it. I got a guitar sitting over there. I'll pick it back up for the first time in years, and I'll sing Matt on while Matt charges the hill. That's how we'll do that.
Also, if you play the guitar, I will sing. We can go.
Yeah,
we can make that happen. Cut an album. we can make that happen. If this man ends up needing a fundraiser, we'll make an album
and a calendar shoot. Because the calendar shoot, I'm not sure if you're aware. So I talked to Matt before we started the show, and I tried to help him understand that this is not a formal show. I'm not even wearing pants.
Dude, last night on my show, I showed a video of this it's former Miss Israel, and she was like over there showing like all the humanitarian aid and stuff, and she had her body armor on, and some of her boobs were popping out, and all the guys were like drooling in the chat. And I was shocked at the amount of women that were like, "Where's our hot dude video?" And so I showed him some Yemen guy like singing, like some dude from the Houthis like singing a freaking music video. And then I was like, you know what? You guys can all, like all the men just say you're single, how old you are, and where you're at. And then, dude, the chat just went freaking insane, absolutely nuts. And then all of the women did the exact same thing, like immediately following afterwards. It went on, dude, for like 30 minutes. Like it didn't stop. Nuts.
I do want to share this video that he sent you one more time, and then we were talking about a video from Israel. If you wanted to stick around a little bit longer with me and maybe cover some of this, because I think there's probably some value that we can both bring to this one. But I want to share this video that Adam sent to you one more time, just in case we have people that are here that weren't here at the beginning. This is video from Adam to Matt that talks about his current situation. Again, if you're just now joining us over the last 10 minutes or so, Adam Ennis, UK citizen, detained in Ukraine as AWOL, although he wasn't. There's a whole story that goes along to that. You can rewind the stream, but I want to share this video with you one more time before we move into a pretty crazy shot.
Hi Matt, it's Braveheart here. First of all, thank you so much for having my back. It means the world. I just wanted to highlight a few points. First of all, I'm so proud to be part of this war effort. I'm proud of the Ukrainian people and how strong and resilient they are. Now, whether that's through civilians or the military or even the international fighters that we've found over here throughout this war, they're doing a hell of a job. We're still standing. The world gave us 1 week and we're still here almost 4 years later. Now, in terms of corruption, yes, it exists here, like it does in the UK, in Europe, in America, and everywhere else, and there are a few bad eggs. But I don't want this image to be created on the full military, because it's not like that. And I have full faith in the Ukrainian anti-corruption bureaus that they will take care of these incidents as they see fit. But thank you once again to you and everyone else from the support. It means the world. Braveheart. Also, I'd like to add in, I'm sorry about my appearance. I'm a bit rough and rugged. I've not slept much in the past 24 hours. It's been quite a stressful period.
I do like that he included that screenshot there, right? Because that screenshot there is yours. That's your tweet, right? So
well, I put that, to be clear. He sent to be clear, he sent me the raw footage of him talking. I put it together in a video.
Nice little video. Well,
yeah, exactly.
Thanks for making me a liar. All right, let's move on. I do want to.
You're not a liar now, man. I just realized where you're at. I was like, oh no. I ended up doing that.
I do want to do some combat footage here. We were talking about this. This is the combat footage show. I did mention that things were going to start off a little bit differently, but it's not every day you see footage like this, and that's something that I've talked about quite a bit. You know, I am an OG Funker follower from way back when. I told this story on our last show. Back in 2013, before my first deployment, Matt, I was given an OPSEC briefing and told during that not to end up on Funker 530. I don't know. I'll never forget it, and it's one of my favorite stories to tell people. But I do remember the footage from those days leading all the way up to joining the team here. And I got to tell you, the last, this is a double-edged sword. Obviously, it provides a whole lot of value to us because our mission isn't necessarily to just publish footage to publish footage. We're more interested in the lessons learned in the historical archive. So when it comes to something like this takes place at an AIDS center, and we had just kind of transitioned into Israel. When it comes to something like this, you don't see shots taken like this. And I would like, once we take a chance to review the footage here, I'd like for you to talk about some of the risks associated with a shot like this and how confident this shooter would have needed to be to even pull the trigger in the first place. Let's watch the footage and then we'll come back.
ومجيء تصير ومجيء تصير كنت انا مفسفس الطب ترى شيء انا بني ادم يلا هوبا يراني دخلت كنا هناك
So he just hit that shot, man. And that is, that seems not only far, but there's also, you have non-combatants in the area, right? You can hear his spotter with him there. Walk me through your thoughts, as a former Green Beret looking at something like this.
Yeah, I mean, all you can give it to you as a sniper. That's a hell of a shot. And we don't know the distance that he's taken. I mean, honestly, like under 500 meters, depending on what rifle, what round, everything else he's got. He's doing pretty good. So I look at this and I go, okay, well, I've got two different options here, right? When it comes to picking somebody off, you've got tracking and you've got trapping. So tracking, I'm literally, moving with this guy, right? And I've got my specific hold as this individual continues to move as he goes. And I have trapping, which is I've got my crosshairs here and he's moving in. Most snipers end up using a combination of the two. They'll track and then they'll wait for a specific, instant for that trigger to kind of set that trap and drop and let it go. But still, you're shooting at a moving target at a distance. And so you're always going to have this delay until the round ends up impacting there. So you do have to account for that as well. You also got to be able to account for the speed that target's moving at. So you have all of that going through. And then you're also worried about your backdrop and what's kind of taking place over there. I'd look at that as well, and I'd look at where that road's at to set up that trap, right? So you can see where that road curves and it starts heading back towards the camera as that truck's coming back around that corner. And those are known points that you know that that guy is going to be traveling in before he goes. Now, the interesting part about this is that that sniper chose a particular spot in order to set that trap and to trip that trigger. And it's probably not the one that I would have picked, believe it or not, because you see him like starting to come around that corner. Now, the nice thing about the corner is he trips the trigger in that corner is you've got that vehicle is going to slow down a little bit as it goes over there. So it could be that that vehicle slows down as it goes over that bump like you just saw it, and then ends up dropping the trigger on him, which is kind of nice. So it goes over that bump, which is great because that means that that sniper was able to sit there, watch, God only knows how many vehicles go over it, know that there's going to be that big bump and set his trap up right there to where that driver is going to end up hitting the brakes. He slows it way down. That makes a shot at 10 times more predictable because of the time of flight of that round. And he's able to frickin' send it and knock the dude out in one go. I mean, that's just a phenomenal shot.
Yeah, I would assume or guess that they're probably using something like a 7.6251, but we've seen a lot of HS50s, like even Stayer stuff being used. With this, though, one of the things I did want to point out, so I am a precision guy. I'm no sniper, but I am a precision shooter. It's the other show that I do here is you've actually got quite a bit of wind in the background as well. So you've got environmentals that you're going to be dealing with here, and you're going to have to account for that alongside the speed of that target. So using everything from, you know, the mils in your reticle to try and figure out its speed to the Wusa method, right? So with, subtract, against, add on the wind. You're going to have to make an adjustment subject to whether the wind is moving towards or away from your target. There's a lot that went on for a shot like this, and it's one of the reasons that were you not to be here tonight, I was going to lead off with it. We were probably going to spend a good 20 minutes here. I don't know exactly.
Oh, dude, we can spend a good 20 minutes on this shot. I mean, it's freaking impressive, to be honest.
Right. So people again will look at this and be like, oh, yeah, one less Hamas. It's no, there's a lot to dissect on this. I would love to know the round because that's going to give me some semblance of understanding for speed. That's going to give me quite a bit. Now, there's an argument to be made that on video, a lot of people will try and time things, right, to try and extrapolate data that way. I believe video to be a very imperfect lens into reality. You know, there could be a lot of distortion. I know that when I upload personal videos to X, for example, not all of the data makes it there, and you can actually catch frames that are lost. So that's going to be a very imperfect method. But I mean, something like this, you know, there's confidence there, there's skill associated with this. It wouldn't really matter to me who the shooter was. That's a ballsy shot.
And here's the crazy part, right? Like in sniper world, generally speaking, the guy behind the gun isn't your more experienced one. The spotter is, right? The guy sitting, you know, behind the glass next to him that's going to end up taking. Correct. That way you're properly reading the winds. That way you're properly judging distance. That way, you know, you're doing all of these things and clearing it and helping him out, giving him those corrections as he's tracking that target and making sure all of his things are correct. You know, it's one thing to be able to have a steady trigger finger and be able to line up your sights. It's another thing to know where those are supposed to go, to be able to do all that math quickly, because the speed of that vehicle changing, that guy's got to just be working with constant corrections in his head over and over and over again. You know, it's freaking impressive.
Well, that's why, you know, talk about the spotter being the senior guy. That's one of the reasons that when you talk to some of these guys, I had the opportunity to train with Rob Furlong. I'm actually headed back up there next month.
Nice.
Rob, for those that don't know Rob, he set in 2002 the world record at the time for the longest kill in combat. I want to say it was 2,430 meters. And all he does is he talks about his spotter, about his team leader. And a lot of people don't truly understand why exactly it is the team leader that is the one doing that. Because to be quite honest with you, your shooter is just exercising, you know, sound judgment and fundamentals. That's the shooter, at least as far as my understanding from a military application of precision rifle goes. Your spotter, they're the ones that are accounting for all of the balance. And I kind of summarize the balance as 4 things: shooter, platform, environment, and load, right? So there has to be a good balance of those things to be precise and accurate at especially the distance where the math falls off, right? Then you're going to have to...
And let's talk about just the fact that they were in the right place at the right time. You know, some of that's luck, But a lot of that, in my experience, isn't luck. A lot of that is being able to read the terrain, knowing your enemy, knowing what they're moving through. I mean, all of that comes with experience just to get that shooter in the right spot. So you got to have all that up in your head and make sure that that stuff goes through, man. Like the entire everything just about it is just perfect.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are, looking at just the distance as kind of what to key in on here. The other aspect, I'm gonna dip into my information warfare hat for a second. The other aspect that I notice here is if for some reason that shot goes awry and it hits one of these non-combatants, my word, can you imagine what that, Israelis snipe Palestinians trying to get food, and what you end up with is this entire psychological warfare shitstorm, proverbial shitstorm, where, the guy was just trying to shoot the dude riding on the back of the technical. You know what I mean?
Right.
So being confident to take a shot like this is huge.
Here's something else that goes into it, right? Like I talk about like the size of enemy force and stuff that's still existing inside of Gaza to this day, and it's all estimated, right? When I was looking into the entire Aguilar situation, I was talking to some of the GHF contractors that were on the ground out there when they first went in. They were shocked at how much some of those Israeli snipers were actually shooting around their positions. And as I'm talking to this guy, I had to explain he's like, I don't understand why they're shooting so much. I was like, do you understand the actual enemy situation on the ground for where you're at? He goes, not really. I'm like, okay, well, let me explain it to you. You got an estimated 15,000 enemy combatants still in there right now in an area the size of the city of Las Vegas. You break that down and you say over inside of Iraq, we only killed approximately 40,000 enemy combatants between 2003 and 2013. So in a 10-year time span, and in all of Iraq, only killed approximately 40,000 enemy combatants, terrorists, freaking, Ba'ath Party, whatever, 40,000. You take that number and you apply that for the amount of Hamas fighters inside Gaza, intel estimates between 35 and 40,000 at the start of the conflict in an area the size of the city of Las Vegas. That's insane. I think that is a target-rich environment.
I think that's kind of a theme that we see talked about a lot within certain circles, right? And I don't think it only applies to what the IDF is dealing with right now. It applies to the war in Ukraine as well, wherein we have an entire generation of global war on terror veterans that are looking at this very much so from a nose down perspective and saying, you should be doing X, Y, or Z, when the battle space is entirely different than what we dealt with, encountered, and are familiar with. Now, there was absolutely direct action that took place. Nobody takes that away from anybody. But when it comes to the operational level, the threats that are on the battle space, on the battlefield, you have the intersection of precision weapons with antiquated trench technology, for goodness sakes. And that is across both sides of the forward line of troops. But that's something that I don't think is given enough time, energy, and credit, is exactly what war looks like, especially between these two, with what the IDF is dealing with in this super compressed, very compact, highly kinetic environment, and with Ukraine, where we have the closest thing to a peer conflict since what, Korea? To be honest with you,
right?
I don't think that's given enough credit.
Yeah, man. And you really think about it, like U.S. troops, very, very spoiled rotten, having dominance over the airspace, having like solid artillery, dude, HIMARS if I want, like whatever, you're spoiled rotten to that extent. It's something completely different when you have an enemy that's capable of taking out those additional assets that you are counting on. And then you have to, make your battle plans and then flex the moment those assets are taken away from you by your enemy, right? Because the fight still has to go on. It's not like it ends.
Yeah. So speaking of which, I'm not sure if you're able to see what I'm about to pull up here, but I'm going to pull up this. I'll drop it to you in a chat over there on X. I'm going to pull this up, and this is kind of the stuff that I'm talking about. We're going to see a video of a drone TTP that isn't all that different from your typical double tap strike, but what you have to contend with now is the drone aspect to it. This highly mobile, flying, exploding robot bird that is just chasing you down with a human on the other end of it. So it's not even like the technology can truly fail, because the human can do things that the technology never will be able to. But I want to share this with you guys. This is the kind of thing that you have to contend with. Now, Russia actually screws this up pretty hard, but it's the TTP that matters. Here's the footage.
That's what I was going to bring up. Of
Well, if it's buffering. Stand by one.
course it is.
Thank you, Elon. Here we go. So what you're looking at here is essentially a drone has just exploded right here on the road, in the middle of the road. You're going to see 2 Ukrainians emerge from cover from a tree line there. They're going to be kind of eyeballing what just went down. But a second drone, not too far away, is kind of laying in wait. And that one's going to take off here in a minute. And those 2 Ukrainians are going to unask that spot and get back into the tree line for cover. Highly doubt this ends up being a very effective strike, but it's the TTP that matters. These are the kind of things that Ukrainians are having to contend with that, I mean, we didn't. Our troops, our soldiers didn't, to be honest with you. We didn't have to contend with manning a trench, never leaving that trench, but having Krasnopol drop down on top of you, right?
Well, there were some places where the Taliban had trench systems that were there. Fighting ISIS over in Nangarhar, they ended up having a very extensive cave network and things of that nature. Then you had plenty of terrain for them to use as trenches, but not a lot. But probably the craziest thing, I think the first time I remember seeing a drone being used in warfare was in 2012, and it was the Taliban doing it. And it was like a very small charge. They ended up flying into like one of the big fobs over there, and it clacking off inside of one of the fobs. And I remember thinking, yep, and warfare just changed. Yes. It was right before I was leaving country.
So the fight in Nangarhar is one of the it's a time that I was there. So my second deployment, I was there from 16 into 17, and
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think, speaking of not giving credit, I also don't think that people truly understand what we were contending with as far as ISK in the East there. That was not your typical, Al-Qaeda Haqqani network infrastructure that was being put in place. That was a very, very well-funded operation with depth, with organization, and integration amongst others. I could tell you that at this juncture, it's okay for me to kind of talk about this, but I can tell you that one of the primary things that I was there to do as an information operator was try and find a way to separate them from the other assholes organizations that were in the area. And, Ranger was doing a lot of things in the East over there, along with their ODA brothers. Obviously my role in that was very much setting conditions for it, but I don't think a lot of people by then were still paying much attention to the different factions, groups, and organizations that the United States was contending with.
No. And that was, I want to say there was, and I'm not going to try to get into telling a bunch of war stories or anything, right? It's not my style, but I want to say there was when I had moved in there, it was kind of weird because I went on the PDSS in there, and I remember I don't even remember who the hell it was briefing me, but waiting 3 days on the tarmac with HIMARS flying out every single freaking day for the fighting to stop before I could get out there, just for a spot to go in, period of darkness, or to get out there. And it kind of reminded me of like when I was going through Ranger School with a dude with a freaking, laminated map sheet with like map markers on it going, we think they're here. There's so many here, estimated enemy strength of this. Here's, what I mean? And just literally, that's what it was.
With a moderate confidence assessment, it can be tough.
Right.
I've had to deliver those assessments before.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, to understand, that whole area was owned by freaking ISIS for 2 years. They declared martial law. Every fighting age man, boy, whatever, if they weren't in uniform, well, I wouldn't say in uniform, but if they weren't an AK carrying member of freaking ISIS, they had them out there like digging. And even if they were, they still had them out there digging and entrenching themselves. Yeah. It was disgusting. Like some of the stories that like the locals, had brought up and talked about, and the different things that like ISIS was doing while they're out there. Dude, they wrapped det cord around a dude's head. Actually, a couple of them, some of the elders, they wrapped det cord around their necks and sat them down on landmines. There was a video of it years ago that came out. Just disgusting crap, man.
So, not trying to get too far down. I've got 2 things to share on that. One of my first roles in combat footage was actually in support, on a contract. And one of my jobs was to do the initial triage of Islamic State videos when they first started kind of really pushing those out into the environment to see if it was geo-targetable at all. Some of those skills I still use when it comes to covering the combat footage show here is, you know, taking ridge lines and stuff and seeing if I can find, if I have a general area, I'm pretty good. I'm no squint. I'm no geo-inter, but having to sit and watch through those things, looking for small cues of things that, you know, you had the guy that was set on fire in the cages, the Jordanian pilot, if I'm not mistaken, you know, reviewing all that initial footage that had made its way down into Afghanistan in the east there in Nangarhar, right? And one of the things, if you were here, typically I show you all of this stuff and it's fun, maybe, but one of the things that I did is, you might not be able to see this, but the chat will be able to see it, is I put prominent ISIS members' heads on traditional Afghan garb because they used to wear women's clothing to try to hide amongst the populace, and then we dropped this shit all over Nangarhar. They started talking on their radios pretty quickly after that.
Were you responsible for that leaflet or that one drop? Was that you that had like the freaking lion that was running around with like the Shahad written on it? Was that you?
I don't know. I can go through the book of leaflets that I've got here and see if that one was.
Oh man, I'll have to find it. It was bad. It made like it was bad. It pissed off a lot of people. I picked one up off the ground and gave it away as a gift later on. But yeah,
I told you before we started, our studio is built for in person. So typically I've got conversation topics. Like there's a 10mm socket there for how often those get lost. You get to take one of those home with you. Speaking of stuff though, you talked about trenches, the drone threat, the intersection of, again, I kind of describe it this way purposefully, the intersection of precision weapons with what at least used to be considered antiquated defensive techniques, right? We thought that trenches, World War I type stuff, but we see the efficacy of those in taking and holding ground. There's a piece of footage that I'm going to share with the crew here where, correct me if I'm wrong, one of our writers, Josh, a former Marine infantryman, 0331 machine gunner, says that he kind of breaks the first rule, which is don't touch the UXO. I'll shoot this one to you in the chat here in a minute.
Yeah, that's a good rule.
So you're seeing a Russian FPV drone that just landed in front of his trench, and unfortunately, this dude goes to poke it away with his rifle, and exactly what you expect happens.
Detonates, yeah.
But conversely, I'll give you another one where I don't know if I would have done this. Just to be honest with you, this one's a little bit crazy. Sometimes you might have to just grab it out of the air and shake it around and, you know, pull the munition off of it if you want to.
Is it the drunk guy? Please tell me it's the drunk guy.
I'd assume he's drunk. I don't know, bro.
Yes, I love it. Yes.
So this is, once again, a Russian FPV drone. We might be looking at a fiber here. It is fiber, I think. So it's a fiber drone. You see the drone netting there that they've got. I don't have a geolocation for this one. I just wanted to grab it because those two videos kind of next to each other almost contradict. So if you're trying to figure out what he did, he grabbed the fiber and reeled it in like a fish.
Oh, you gotta love it, man.
This is an observation drone that was over top of him.
Well, dude, you know, I get it sometimes, you know, like the whole complacency portion. There was a couple images and stuff that I ended up having some guys on the front that were sending back to me, and this one guy's like, "Hey, Matt, you ever seen this before?" And they're like, "Do you know what type of explosive this is?" And I looked at it, and it's literally a water bottle. And I'll have to go find the image, man, because it's old. But what the Russians were doing was they were taking their AT mines, like their anti-tank mines, chipping the explosives out of them, right? Geez. So disassembling them, chipping the explosives out of them. And you can actually melt these things down, right? And so they were melting them down, and then they were pouring them into, like, you know, your standard freaking water bottle. putting a crap fuse that's not going to detonate the freaking explosive and sending it across the line on a drone.
This sounds a whole lot. This sounds a whole lot like nonstops. Have you heard of nonstops? No. Oh, bro, hold on. It's gonna take me a second to find this one. I don't know, the serenade everybody or something, but I'll be able to get it. So a nonstop is there's a Ukrainian energy drink called Nonstop, and what Ukrainians were doing. So we had a member of Chosen Company on our show here, and he turned me on to Nonstops, Mr. Wayne Hallett. See if I can find Nonstop. What they were doing is they were filling up the Nonstop cans full of plastic explosive, and they were hucking them at people.
Oh
yeah.
Yep. So I had some dudes from Chosen I was talking to, and like they were just tons of crap, man, and they were showing me some of their seen some of that.
Gotta be. I swear it's on my page. I want to show everybody though. Nonstop. I bet I've. Come on.
Oh God.
Let's see if I can find it. Just quickly.
So many common names too, and I love seeing this like over inside the chat. So many common names between your channel and ours, man. Like, see, Texas is in here. Same with Incog Faraday, and I was like, tons of people, man. It's so ridiculous the amount that float.
I was saying when we started, I was like, you guys have been asking for this for a really long time, and honestly, Matt and I have been chatting about trying to do something like this for a while. Given that we're normally and typically set up for in person, though, each with our own schedules and things that we're working on and projects and efforts, it can be difficult for us to find time specific to these things that we're working on. I'm sure your show isn't the only thing that you have going on, right? So no, this was just a good opportunity for us to just say, screw it, we're doing it live and come together.
That's what we did.
We do have some shared experiences. We might end up having to get, we'll potentially cover some of that stuff. Maybe we'll do a podcast or something. Yeah. Because that's warrants a much longer conversation that, we have a tie we didn't even know about. I can't find the Nonstop, man. I don't know where it is.
That's fine.
But it's sick, dude.
It's frustrating though. Hate it when that happens.
I don't remember the way Wayne described it. I want to say he said that it turned his adversaries into spaghetti or something, just because of how much. I'm not trying to
explosive they had packed in there.
He said it's very effective as
I feel like they shared this with me. Now I feel like a jerk for not remembering it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see if there's another one that I wanted to cover, because we're already coming up on the end of the show. We've just been having a good conversation here. Actually, have you noticed the proliferation and use of satchel charges?
What?
How many satchel charges are being used between Russians and Ukrainians? I have seen them take down buildings by tossing a satchel full of explosives.
You know what? Now that you mention it, yes, I have seen this. Yeah, they have started. Yeah. Yes.
So this is a Russian.
It's very effective.
No, this is a Ukrainian tossing a satchel charge into a Russian pillbox here. Don't have a great location for this one, but I continue to see both Ukrainians and Russians both kind of just doing wild man shit, running up to barricaded shooter type positions and hucking backpacks full of stuff that explodes.
I trying to remember like in a legit satchel charge how many blocks of C4 it is, but like I was shocked when I ended up learning that a freaking actual satchel charge, I think maybe it's like 10 blocks of C4, like 5 stacked on 5, if I remember right, something like that. And then you just have like different boosters like go into each freaking block. I mean, it's nuts. This is just literally a buttload of explosives.
Something I think is notable is this is literally a backpack full of explosives.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Yeah, you can improvise just massive amounts of explosives. Like that's all it is. You don't need an official satchel charge to call it a satchel charge. You just rig a bunch of explosives together, wrap them with duct tape, and chuck it in there.
And it is doctrinal. So you mentioned not remembering how many blocks of C4 are in it. I remember there was an operation that Ranger was conducting while I was in country that they were dealing with a barricaded shooter in a pillbox kind of deal like this, probably made out of earth. But it took them forever trying to break through this thing, and he was still continuing to put rounds on it. Well, eventually, one of them decided to just go put a satchel charge on the top of it and collapse the whole structure down right on top of him. It's pretty crazy to watch.
Yeah, man. Lucky it even actually worked, man. Like, in order to figure out, because I mean, for a while there, we're trying to like blast out different, call them like murder holes or whatever, that you're going to sit there and set up like a defensive fighting position from, or shoot through, whatever. Or sometimes you just want to blast a hole in the side of a building. And some of those things, like over in that country, are so unique, man. Like, you just got to go do test shot after test shot, and try not to go pee for plenty, because you can end up actually really destroying what you're trying to get into. Unless that is your total goal, is just take it down, in which case use all you can. But you got to remember, you got to carry all this crap at the same time.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's got to, you've got to account for the overpressure and everything like that that's on those charges, which is why this guy, chucking it in, being in a trench system, it's a perfect place for that. Blasts are going out and up. You take, a certain amount of explosive, you need to be a certain distance away from it if it's in the open and exposed to you, before that thing freaking scatters your freaking brain a little bit.
Yeah, so that's something that I've appreciated about your coverage before, was the explosives knowledge, because it's not really something that I have. I'm a mile. The way I describe it is that I'm a mile long and an inch deep as an all source guy, right? I have to be able to speak to 1,000 different things at a very basic level to help conceptualize those, typically for commands, right? That is literally my function. But when it comes to some of that niche knowledge base and understanding, I want to say we don't cover stuff like this here, but it's just an example. The Trump Tower, right? Some of your coverage of the explosive residue from that, I shouldn't say residue, your BDA of it was very helpful to contextualize that for a lot of us that don't necessarily have experience in the field. The way we always do our show, though, is we're coming up on the end. I always have one more video, and you're going to have to watch the one more video with everybody else. And it's typically something that is a little bit off the wall, right? It's a way to kind of, our show can end up being a little bit heavy at times. This is the combat footage show. We do cover some pretty spicy stuff, to the point to where YouTube and us go around in circles with each other. These are typically not those kinds of things. It's either crazy, it's funny, but I did want to thank you very much. Before we do that, it'll be the last thing that we do as we're walking out. I'm going to leave the audio on. I'm sure you've seen it, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it. I want to thank you for coming on tonight. We've talked about doing this. I'd like to do it again sometime in the future, maybe with a little bit more structure. For those of you who might not know this is entirely seat of the pants. Like, we had no structure to this whatsoever coming, and we just knew that we wanted to talk about Adam. We knew we wanted to just have a conversation with you guys about that. We had no plan, including the technology. I had no idea whether the technology was going to work tonight, but I think we should do it again. If we do have people in the chat that live under a rock and don't know where they can find your work, though, where can they find you?
Yeah, Speak the Truth podcast over on YouTube, over on X at Anger Tab, or you can do my name, Matt Tardio. Got Anger Tab because Rob Turkla, dude from Lunkers TV. I think, dude, what the hell else did he do? He's in like some of Granger Smith's music videos, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, him and we ended up serving together, man. And that retard ended up cutting the R off my Ranger tab one day and like putting it back on my uniform. And so I was walking around with like an Anger Tab on for like an entire day and didn't realize it.
I've never known that was why it was Anger Tab.
Yeah.
Instead
that's
of
why
Ranger
it's
tab.
that way. Yeah, because Rob smart ass like cut the freaking R off my Ranger tab and like threw it back on my uniform. I died laughing. I was like, that's hilarious.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to those that sent in a few dollars. This stream is always free. You guys don't have to do that. Like, it's honestly, it is very much appreciated. Blue Bear, thank you. Seth, thank you very much. Incog Faraday, thank you very much. Pretty suspect guest. I agree. He's a little bit suspect. Demo, thanks for the 24 months. And Scott, thanks for becoming a member. This is that one more video that I have for you guys. I'd like to note that this is supposed to be America, and I'm supposed to be able to do this at any time that I want. But for now, I'll have to give you this guy and some of his fishing techniques. Here you are. Good night. Thank you very much for being here. Go be great and stay informed. That man.
That's a
That's
AT mine.
That's a landmine.
that's a straight up anti-tank mine, man.
How many fish do you think he killed with that?
Probably one. It'd probably mean if they're fishing like that every day, there's not much left in there, and I guarantee you he ain't picking them up.
Do you think that there's still enough for dinner?
I think it's already cooked. That's just the great part.
It's probably lightly seared. To be honest with you, I don't think it's cooked through.
It needs to be to disinfect it out of whatever water he's pulling that out of. Did you ever see the RPG fishing video from back in the day of the Afghan?
Oh yes, of course I saw the RPG.
Yeah. Classic.
Good night, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Good night, brother.